to be able to develop some sort of markers that will allow us to proceed in the future, not to be assimilated? This is an important question. It is one of the questions that greatly concerns the departments and those people who are at the cutting edge of social media and institutions. There are certain institutions, not government institutions, that have run some pilots. They've made some attempts. I spoke with representatives of Engineers Without Borders, where that person told me that, and I think this is the term, there are communities of users who have appropriated certain elements that could contribute to an online discussion. They said, we want to do that. We want to see these elements translated. And also, someone, a consultant in social media, told me that the correction of drafts is done collectively. He puts out his blog, and it is his readers who correct his blog, his draft. It's quite true that English and the presence of French, the presence of English and the danger that represents for French is something that is of concern for everyone. There's no easy answer to it. If I were to blog, of course I'd have to do it in both languages. But as to how I would do it, well, this is a question that will be looked at closely, that we will reflect on. If we ever get the technological capability to do that, Senator Lozier-Cools and then Senator Dubanet, supplementaries. Well, I think that could fall under our mandate as a committee to look at the way in which the use of technology and the use of good French can be a positive measure. Quite. Perhaps it's up to us here as Canadians to look into it. It's not the French who are going to do it. They're quite willing to use the English terminology. So I think that this is a matter our steering committee could look at. 1 minute, Senator Dubanet. There's a subject that is of interest to me. I would like to have you comment on it. It is the following. Can you tell me why in this country we do not recognize the fact that communicating in two languages representing the two great civilizations of humanity, that there is so much blockage? Can I give you an example that really struck me? Here on Bank Street, 100 feet from Wellington Street, from Parliament, there's a sign from the Mouvement des Jardins. You can't be more francophone than that in Quebec, than the Mouvement des Jardins, but the sign here on Bank Street is only in English. Why is that? It's because they reached the conclusion that that would be negative to put something in French there. That blockage there if they used 1/100th of that energy that they use up in these matters, if they put that energy into learning the other language or another language, what would that mean? How can it be that Mouvement des Jardins is here with a sign in English only, 100 feet from Wellington Street? I just don't understand it. I'd like to hear your comment, because you're such a penetrating observer of the Canadian fact, Canadian reality. Why do you think that having it in French would be considered a burden? Yes, but they have something wonderful in one of their ads. Des Jardins, what is that? And then they say, Desjardins is how you say it in an English ad. Let me tell you about an experience that was repeated to me by people from the Acadian Peninsula. They told me that they had a lot of problems with companies, Quebec companies, who were convinced that Quebec stopped at the border of Quebec, and outside of Quebec everything was in English. They had more problems actually with Jacques Coutu, Orona, and others, like you mentioned, Desjardins, than with the American multinationals, because McDonald's does a market assessment before it opens up a new McDonald's. So they look at it very neutrally. They look at it, what territory, the population, and they discovered that in a given area, well, 98% of the people speak French. Well, the service is there in French. Something that I noted, and you mentioned a financial institution in your example, but if you walk along Bank Street, and I saw a CIBC ad in French. Also, when you cross Spark Street, you will note that there's an RBC sign in French. Therefore, there are other financial institutions that have made an effort to have French signage here. In speaking about Vancouver, something really struck me. That was the effort that was made there by major companies, the sponsors of the Olympics, to provide signage in both official languages. Everything was there. There was bilingual signage from the city of Vancouver as well. People, in essence, who were not obliged to do so, but given the spirit of the law, given the spirit of the Olympics, I didn't hear. I said they were afraid of you.
Mr. Commissioner, I cannot enough express how we appreciate your appearances before us. So on my behalf and on behalf of all of the senators here, I would like to thank you and the members of your staff for being with us. The meeting is adjourned.
Inside these buildings, a daily ritual of readings, addresses, and debates takes place. Like the iconic location in which it occurs, it's almost too familiar to be interesting. But when looked at closely, certain things come to light. Nuances, revelations of character, refinements of expression, and subtle shifts in perspective. It's the Proceedings of the House of Commons, and it's only on CPAC. He could be behind a desk, in the foyer of the House of Commons, or on site at an election or convention.
Our live coverage continues.
You might see him with panels of pundits, or with politicians of all stripes.
How closely will what your government does be linked to what the United States does?
But there's one place where you'll always find him, at the heart of the issue.
We start tonight with the continuing saga of the global economy.
He's Peter Van Dusen, and he's only on CPAC.